I want to share a perspective with you today that one of the things that happen with our brain is that for the brain to help us survive, one of the things that it does is it tries to help you save energy. Because in the past, right, when we lived in caves, it was necessary to save energy so that we could go fight, the big animals. But we no longer need to fight that kind of animals. So there really is not that need to save that kind of energy within ourselves. But one of the ways in which our brain saves energy is by learning routines. When we learn a routine and we repeat it, then it's easy because we don't have to think about it. We already do what we have already done. So at work, when they say, "Hey, Luis, I need you to do this," I'm saying, "Wow, that's the same thing that I did, last year." So great, because I don't need, I'm just gonna go back to my files, look at what I already did, and do it again, and I'm good, right? So I save energy, and that's good. Oh, it's fantastic. But what ends up happening is that when I am operating by repeating the same routines, before I know it, I am just kind of living in autopilot. For example, if I live in the same place, if I work in the same place for 20 years and I live in the same house, and so I just drive, I know, the same street, the same turn, the same, so I'm just kind of going, I don't even have to think about it. So that seems like an amazing idea because you're saving energy, right, by repeating what you've done. But that actually have a leadership limitation if you're always doing the same things that you've done in the past, because you're actually blocking yourself from the opportunity to do things in a different way, more innovatively, because a problem that you had in the past that you resolved it with a certain solution, instead of going back and going to the drawer and picking up the same solution you had for the problem when you had it before, what if you think about the problem again differently, because you may come up with a different solution. And that's why, sometimes, for example, when people say, well, ageism, like I'm trying to get a job and I can't find a job because people think that I am too old and stuff. And one of the things that can work against us, when we're no longer as young, is that if the people perceive that we're going to come in and wanting to do the same thing that we did in the past, because as they're trying to bring new employees, younger employees that are millennials and Gen Zs, and they want to try new things, and we're going to go tell them, I don't think that can work. We already tried that. I don't think so. And then that kind of language from the research, from the employee surveys is coming up like, wow, I mean, these folks don't want to try new things, right? So the other piece is when people say, like there is certain romanticism that, when I was a little kid, I was 10 years old, my grandfather told me blah, blah, blah. And now I need to, from a loyalty standpoint, I'm going to live the rest of my life holding myself kind of to those values, that comment that my grandfather said, or my father, my mother, someone important in my life told me something, and I live the rest of my life holding true to that. But actually, that seems like an amazing idea, but it may not be, because what happens is that something that somebody told you 3 decades ago with the best intention, maybe it was true at the time, but it may not be true today. So you could be living the rest of your life kind of, living with that thought, with that idea, with that notion that is actually limiting yourself from opening up your heart and your mind to new information, new ideas. Imagine, for example, like this presentation, I've given this presentation over 100 times. So for me, it would be easy to save energy to say, well, I'm just going to go to this group and do the same thing that I've done over 100 times, and I save energy. But I don't do that, because if I did that, then it would look kind of, robotic and mechanic. And what I do is every time I do this presentation, I never do the same thing. I always do something different, because I'm flexing, I'm exercising my mind and my brain to do new things, right? So that when people say, I'm speaking to Steve, and then at the end of a conversation say, all right, Steve, yeah, we're going to have lunch sometime. And then Steve picks up his calendar and say, okay, yeah, we're going to have lunch. Okay, great. Here's my calendar. When do you want to check to see if you're open to have lunch? Oh, no, I'll send you an email, because I wasn't saying, I said, let's go have lunch, but I wasn't really meaning that I wanted to have lunch. I wanted to give a farewell, and I went into my files in my brain. I picked up a phrase that I've used before, and I threw it there, but I wasn't really meaning it, right? But then instead of living in automatic pilot, where we're just acting and talking without much thinking, what if we say, okay, for emotional intelligence, for social skills, to be able to relate with other people more effectively, instead of saving energy, let's use energy. Let's go ahead and burn energy to think about the things that we're going to do, even when we have already when they come to us at work and they say, you need to solve this problem, even if you have solved it in the past before, you say, let's look at this thing again. We're going to try different ways, different things. If I brush my teeth every morning with my right hand, one morning I'm going to wake wake up and I'm going to brush them with the left hand instead of, if I live in the same place, and I work in the same place, instead of taking the same street and the same turn, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a different street. I'm going to do something different because I want to open myself up. And even though my grandfather told me something when I was 10 years old, and somebody comes in and is proposing something different to me, is bringing a different idea, instead of saying, no, like, I don't, it's like, I'm good. No, it's like open up, to this new idea, to this new concept, because you could actually be spending years of your life holding on to one notion that could no longer be true. And somebody's trying to talk to you and is trying to open and expand your knowledge by giving you new information based on new data, new research, new experiences, new technology. And you can't let that in because you are romantically holding on to that, being loyal to a knowledge that may no longer be true, right? So what I'm proposing to you today is that, let's stop saving energy. Let's not save more energy. Let's go ahead and burn the energy by, doing things differently. And the nice bonus to that is that if we are saving energy, energy is something that is in the air and is moving. When we save it, we actually accumulate it and we let it sit. So we are full of energy, but we're full of energy that is sitting and is aging. It's no longer new and fresh. And when we burn it, then we have no choice but to recharge with a new energy. It's a new energy that is young and fresh and new, right? So there is my benefit there to go ahead and charge with new energy.